We are talking about Libra. Facebook, you know, they were hinting, they were dropping little clues that they were going to launch their big cryptocurrency, and people said, sure, right guys, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, they've dropped the bomb and the world has gone crazy. We're going to talk about it right here, right now. Once again, I have the CEO of the BC Group. I didn't mention earlier, but I'm going to drop it now. He is also one of the co-chairs of the FinTech Association of Hong Kong's Blockchain Committee, a community guy as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Matt. Let's hear it for him. And as well, you know our other man, we got Tony Tong, who is the co-chair and co-founder of the Hong Kong Blockchain Association and the president of Global STOX, aka Global Stocks. Thank you very much, Tony Tong.
Macau Gaming Association, I'm the vice chairman.
And the vice chairman is that as well.
Macau Gaming Association.
Oh, and I forgot to mention the gaming. So if you wanna hook up with the guys that take care of the casinos, he's your man. Okay. We're going to get into it. Okay, I want to get into this. Matt, let's kick off. You got into, you talked about, you said if the money flows into this, it could be huge. Facebook could make this thing massive. They could, we're going to talk, I think, a little bit later about some of the economic implications of that. But why would people use it? I've got Facebook, I've got Instagram, I've got WhatsApp, and all of a sudden they pop up and say, hey, we're all over your mobile. Use our currency, and I'd be, why? So what is the why? I think a lot of people have been talking about the actual applications of it that's going to be real for these people when they're asked to buy it. What are they going to use it for?
I'll answer this in a roundabout way. I had some friends in Australia, Sydney, working on. It was supposed to be a PayPal killer. Consortium of the banks all working on this, and when they told me, I was like, okay, that's great. How many clicks? What? What do you mean, how many clicks? How many clicks? How many clicks does the user have to do to get their payment off? And they're like, actually, I'm not sure. I haven't measured that. Then people started talking about the no clicks, the Uber experience. Get in the car, get out of the car, transactions occurred, there was no interaction, no clicks, it was seamless. Now, how much prominence is there in Facebook these days? Out for lunch was great, Amy's doing all right, it's used a lot for that kind of thing. How much people are selling, people have their whole business on Facebook. So when you get to the stage, you look at it, you want it, you buy it, and there's a very seamless Uber-like experience. That's why.
Okay. So, now, Tony, you've got a whole bunch of people that have committed funds to get behind Libra. What are they banking on? Why do they think people are going to get behind this? So seamless experience.
For people who's been to China, WeChat payment, you don't have to carry your wallet. Taxi, or you're going to vegetable, or going to buy vegetable, or going to supermarket, restaurants, even the street beggars have to have a QR code. So you don't have to sell anyone mobile payment. People are already using it. So we're just surprised why WeChat or WhatsApp, Facebook haven't done it. What's taking them so long? Also Line, they've announced that they're going to do it. So I think that I don't have to try to convince them really hard. I think people get it.
On that note, a PBO official was talking about Alipay. He said, well, at first it was too small to do anything about. A year later, it was too big to do anything about. So regulators the world over have learned that lesson, and that's why we saw such a quick knee-jerk reaction towards Facebook.
Right, the knee-jerk reaction that you're talking about, I heard they talking about this on Bloomberg, I think towards the end of, right after the congressional hearings, right, so about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And, the Congress, American Congress people were sitting there, they didn't even know what they were talking about. And they're like, but you have to stop. You can't proceed until we completely understand this. And I'm like, I saw you guys, questioning the head of Google, Pindar Sutai. You didn't even know the difference between an iPhone and an Android phone. So, and they're saying that they have to stop working on Libra until these guys actually understand what's going on. You said there's this knee-jerk reaction. Do you think you said earlier, were they reacting to how they felt about Facebook, or or what they understood about the economic implications of it, or what was it that politicians are so outraged by, or so worried about? Do they really understand what they're dealing with, do you think?
I think it's more than one thing. Certainly data privacy and big tech. This is a very big concern. And so it's certainly, and I do believe that concern was actually more about big tech and privacy issues than it was about cryptocurrency. And most of the people who sat through the 2 days of hearings and copious notes, they all had the same comments. No one was particularly worried about the cryptocurrency aspect of it. It was the big tech, the data privacy, someone holding so much money who's clearly not a very good, credible manager of people's money or people's assets. But I think it was mainly about big tech. But there has been a congressman running around talking about Bitcoin as a threat to the US dollar. So there has this systemic risks and the threat to the US dollar has been an emerging theme this year.
Okay, we are on Facebook Live, so I'm going to ask you, do you remember the name of the congressman or which one it was?
Quick Google, no, I have to do a quick Google, yeah, actually. All over Bitcoin Reddit's being hated on most likely. So,
Okay, gotcha.
I think they also mentioned that they're going to try to catch up with WeChat and Alipay in their hearing, right? I think Chinese people, if you go to China, it's already a cashless society. You know, it's the paper note processing tools are going, quickly. Their revenues are declining. There's a Vista company. They handle paper bills. They do ATM machines for paper notes. Their revenue went down like 60% last year, and they attribute this to the rise of WeChat payment and Alipay. So I think that Libra has to rush out, or otherwise, but they have some advantage because it's their global coverage. But I think WeChat and Alipay, they are also going to go global. Even though it's not blockchain, this in China is centralized, technology, centralized database. There's if you worry about your privacy, everyone knows that whatever you say on WeChat will be tracked by the police and will be used for whatever purpose they want to use it. But people still use it. People still use WeChat for buying, tickets, for paying for vending machines, for doing all kinds of small payments. I think you can handle up to 50,000. I know I sometimes I lend people money using WeChat payment, 50,000.
Yeah, I mean, but people in China culturally generally don't have a real issue with privacy. They have no expectation of privacy. They haven't had one since 1949. Like really, like we talk about the modern tools, but in the old days, there was someone who sat in the lobby of your building that you lived in, your Communist Party appointed apartment, and they would remember who's that guest coming in with you, and they would write it down. And they have no expectation. People in the other parts of the world have different expectations. How many of you use a Facebook product? Instagram, Facebook, and or WhatsApp, right? Of course, yeah, pretty much everybody here. You trust them with your photos, you trust them with your messages?
Not really.
Not really, okay, there's one person in it. But do you trust them with your money?
Definitely not.
Okay, there's one that says definitely not, but how about the rest of them? Would you use Libra?
Compared to WeChat.
Compared to WeChat, yeah, other payment systems. Okay, so the U.S. Congress has concerns about this, the politicians have concerns about it, but the People's Bank of China in the last 36 hours, they announced they're going to have their own cryptocurrency. They want to use it for transactions, the M0 supply of money. They want to use it to promote the internationalization and spread of the yuan. At the same time, they also said, oh yeah, Libra, we're going to treat it like a foreign currency, which suggests that they already have a plan for it. Whereas U.S. Congress people are just saying, oh, we don't know what to do, let's ban it. Is this Facebook's Trojan horse into China?
Well, as you know, China has this capital control, right?
Sure.
So every Chinese citizen is only entitled to exchange up to $50,000 foreign currency per year. And all why Chinese people picked up Bitcoin so quickly, why people were doing mining so hugely in China, is basically because the need for more than $50,000 per person per year. So I know a lot of the Chinese people, they use renminbi to buy the mining machines and pay for electricities, and once they mine Bitcoin, it's global money. So I think that there's Bitcoin still serves a purpose. I think with Facebook Libra, I think they're going to have some problem getting into China, just like, unless maybe do this trade war negotiation, maybe they're going to have some different policy at some point. But I think as of now, Google, Facebook, and whatever they introduce will be blocked. It will be treated as a foreign currency. I believe that.
Hugh, do you want to?
By the way, Bitcoin is also treated as a foreign currency, but people still use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they want to catch you and for a crime, there will be the violation of the foreign exchange for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I have to admit I've never considered Zuckerberg's strategy for China.
Well, for a long time, it was just learn Chinese and suck up to the Chinese authorities, but that didn't work.
Yeah, and is that still his focus? Don't know that one.
Yeah.
But what I thought was interesting though was how Libra was released on the world. I'm not a lawyer, but it's not clear how lawfully it can be stopped. What law are they breaking there? They're operating within legal frameworks. And what's more, it's in Switzerland. So this is certainly surely it's a bit of an overreach. How can you say you must stop while we decided that it needs to be legalised when it's not even in your jurisdiction?
Sure.
And the way that was packaged up, pushed through very quickly. Sure, us, Libra, from the States, will be very compliant, very regulated, but we're not in control. In fact, we're relinquishing control. There's going to be 100 people who control the policy for this thing. And it's a blockchain, which is probably the epitome of something that you can't control. And so I thought that they tried to set up this ecosystem before it could be stopped in some ways.
Well, this begs another question. People talk about the benefits the United States gets by having the global currency. I mean, the United States don't have global currency. If Facebook wants to be the global cryptocurrency, what do they gain by handing over control? If they hand over control and they're one of 100 in a foundation, what's in it for them? What's in it for Facebook? Does this solve another problem they have where they haven't been very good at payments? Why do it?
Well, I think it's obvious. They have the reach. They have all the reach in the WhatsApp and all these devices. I think it's time for them to make a move. Otherwise, I think other lines and many Telegram, other tools are going to catch up and they're going to have wallet. It just makes sense for social apps, chat apps to have a wallet. And WeChat is the best proof. I think WeChat, the real application of WeChat is the wallet in WeChat.
It might be in some ways, this is going to sound ridiculous, it might be in some ways a matter of passion as well. The big four technologists, they don't always do things just the way a regulator might think about it, but they might also be very sound legal reasons for it. I've got a view that to operate on a global scale, like Google or Facebook, that's a very different business because right now, at the current time, it's very light touch regulations, so it's privacy laws and everything else. But if you look at the regulations for a bank or any regulated asset manager, they're heavily regulated in every jurisdiction and every customer they serve. And what's more, all of the regulations are very different. So the cost of compliance when you've got like 50 different regulators, I used to work at HKBCW with 48 countries. The compliance costs for every regime you're in. So if you're, and I completely agree with Tony. So clearly they need transactions, they need transactions history, they need to build up credit scoring, they need to build up wealth management products. Clearly that's their future. Vertical integration. However, Alipay is in China, a single, arguably, a single jurisdiction. Facebook operates over a large swathe of different countries with different laws. Now, if you wanted to start doing payments, in some manner, it's going to be able to just basically be able to operate in the speed and pace that these companies are used to operating. Then there's a legal reason why instead of going down banking licenses, maybe a stable coin with much lighter touch payment services regulations in each jurisdiction as it rolls it out. Maybe that's part of the reason. But I've certainly been puzzled with the business case. I look at it and I go, yes, I agree with Tony, they need this product. But when I look at the economics of the way they're rolling it out, relinquishing control straight away, that puzzles me.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people in the Hong Kong community, remember Paul Schulte, who's moved down to Singapore recently. He did his big analysis of the big, kind of the big technology players in the United States versus the big technology players in China. And he said the big hole the American companies had was finance and the financial system. And the reason was that the Chinese companies were able to work hand in glove with Chinese regulators to develop, like the WeChat payment system and Alipay and all these things, whereas the Americans, it was always a huge burden. It was just too much risk for them to have it. And maybe if they're able to sidestep, create the financial part that they're missing compared to the Chinese competitors, but have it slightly outside or kind of this parallel world, maybe this is the answer.
And what's the most valuable asset to Facebook? Is it actually processing financial transactions? Is that what they would consider? No, it's the data. And so they definitely want data. And they've got this argument that they've got Libra, which is a firewall business unit that will not share any data with Facebook. And then you've got Facebook with access to all other data. And then you've got a public blockchain that they can connect to and they can look at the data. Well, they would be able to correlate independently in the Facebook business unit every single transaction to every click and every user. Of course, they don't need a data sharing agreement with Libra. They can do it anyway.
Right.
And so if data and access to all financial transaction data is what they're after, then maybe that's the strategy.
So they promised everybody they won't get the data, but they'll still find a way to get the data.
But what's to stop them?
Questions? I'm happy to take questions, starting with Tom Gallagher, because he's a smart guy. Tom, what do you got for us? We got an extra microphone that we can run back there?
No, that's all right. I don't need a microphone.
You are loud, true.
But Facebook has absolutely no history of protecting anybody's data, whether it's against the law or not. So the whole notion that Calibra is going to be separated from Facebook and they're going to protect data over in Calibra is just a complete canard, because they're totally going to take that data and then they're going to get hauled in front of Congress, and like you said, there's going to be a bunch of lawyers who have no idea what they're talking about, question them, and they're going to get away with it, because that's what they've done up until now. So, I don't know, comments?
Well, maybe I'll just comment. If you really want super data privacy and private wealth and privacy, you got to use Bitcoin or Monero or Zcash. But for people who are in China, we know that there's no privacy in WeChat. We'll still use it because everyday things, payments, buses, train tickets, restaurants, it's
No, I know, but I'm not talking about China. I'm talking about Calibra and the US and Facebook.
So, and that's really the next wave of regs, isn't it? Like we've had money laundering and tax and securities laws. We've had these things forever. Clearly, we need technology regs. The way things are going, AI and everything else. Clearly, there's a whole new wave of regulations that are needed. And I think that really answers your point. Facebook is moving as fast as they can while they still can. And so another part of the question is, how long do you reckon it will take to go and integrate with all your systems, with all the payment vendors in all the countries? The Facebook service, it will take you 10 years. How long does it take just to roll out a blockchain and plug into the node and off you go? You do it in a matter of months. And so I'm sure there's many factors. Tom, I hear you, and I think probably the levels of cynicism around around their data privacy stewardship is probably similar to the cynicism around the suicide of Epstein recently. So yes, definitely let's share that cynicism. I'm sure most of the world does.
Okay, I'll get in there. And I made that crack earlier about people in China having a very low expectation of privacy. I think the only difference with people in the rest of the world is that they will talk about how important their privacy is unless you give them this much convenience, and then they will throw that need for privacy out the window. Well, oh no, I don't need it anymore, right? They'll give it up very, very easily. The only people that defend it usually are high-level, high-minded regulators, especially in Europe. They are the ones that are raising the most alarms. They're the ones that have, Zuckerberg has apologized to repeatedly, and they're not buying it anymore. They're the ones that are raising the alarms. Can they scare off the partners that have publicly committed to supporting this project? Can they get the Visas and MasterCards and other major payment players that are going to be needed to make this work? Can they scare them off the job? It's like, well, I said I was going to be one of the 100. on the board of the foundation in Switzerland, but now there's too much political heat coming out of Congress or coming out of the European Parliament. Could that make this fail?
Okay, I mean, clearly it could, but is that the biggest threat? Like, attack is the best form of defense. So China announced their central bank digital currency under development for 5 years. It's ready. When the CBOE wrote a paper on basically blockchain for clearing system a long time ago. So I think undoubtedly you're right, and maybe some people will be scared off and maybe they'll topple it. But there's like 10 of these things. Facebook's just the biggest one. They're coming, and so probably the surest way to head it off the pass is actually SVS. So Hong Kong, we can have non-banking payments participants. Central Bank of England did the same thing just recently. I think what we're going to see is non-banks able to clear through the central bank quickly and effectively, blockchain style. I think that is probably a far more effective approach to just to head off to private Facebook tethers. It's just a bigger tether. It's just a bigger tether becoming a piece of infrastructure. But to try and stop it getting entrenched as infrastructure, central bank digital currency is probably the best approach.
Okay, Tony, I know that you have a community of people who said, yeah, we will throw money down so we can be, what do you call them, a super node? A super node. But that was before the political heat got cranked up. Have any of them gone a little bit wobbly? Have any of them said, oh yeah, the check's coming soon, we're still committed, maybe not? Or are they still gung-ho that this thing is going to go and they want to be a part of it? Or is there a little bit of, no?
I think our supernova investors, I think they're still watching. I think that they all know that this is going to take at least a year, right? Probably a year before it reaches the market. So we have time to really study the whole thing.
When do companies, when do organizations have to ante up to be a supernode? When do they actually have to like cut a check and cash on?
I know that we've already contacted Facebook. I don't know if there's a deadline. Currently there are 28, and there's a number of organizations and companies that announced that they're on the new list. So,
okay. What does that mean to be a supernode? Are you providing some kind of a technological backstop in Asia? Or?
Probably just marketing. You know, we will have just like a wholesaler to the coin and then to the Libra. And I think that there's also a way to make money, a little bit of money on the as an exchange, a currency exchange center. So there's a little exchange gap.
Yeah, that's a good question. How are we going to make some money out of this, guys? Are you getting involved? How are you going to, I mean, you know, Hugh, you've got a lot going on. Why are you taking the time out? You know, you've been talking about this in the media. You've come to speak to us tonight. Why are you guys so interested in this as an organization?
Sure, it's a good question. First of all, security tokens. So security tokens, very interesting topic, and probably not one for tonight, but it's also very nascent, and it's not really commercial. As a business, we could not support our business by targeting security tokens. It's not even close, 2 or 3 years away from being truly commercial, and as an endeavour. But I guess it's a bit like when a new gaming platform is released. It better come with a big blockbuster game because that makes the platform. And Facebook's security tokens is a very important part of the Libra proposal. Now, if that is the first big product, that's one of the world's top 5 banks, and any professional trader and investor can buy into that, I think that would be a very attractive product. Yeah. And we definitely want to get their license and have to trade that. So that's part of it. The other commercial aspect is I mentioned how Tether works. People get authorized reseller status, and they get only might just be like a fraction of a percent, but they'll get a premium or a discount. They'll get a good price to be able to exchange. They can exchange directly, and Libra has exactly the same model. So if you're an authorized reseller, you can you can access the association, and you can cash in and cash out, and then you can be a distributor out to the population. On top of that, most people won't keep it in their wallet. So most people who are familiar with Bitcoin, realistically, only the more technically savvy or libertarian actually hold their own private keys. Almost everyone else just picks an exchange or somewhere they trust to have in there. And that'll be exactly the same thing with Libra.
Yeah.
And so reportedly there's a very small number of very clean professional organisations globally that they'll deal with on that basis, and organisations like mine, that's the sort of business we chase. But most importantly, that's just commercial business. But that's not why I got in this business. Most importantly, I like the freedom of the disintermediation. So many people, it's Facebook, it's the devil, it's the worst, but if you look at their paper, they're going to relinquish control of it. So you've got one of these big tech companies creating some great technology, relinquishing control to an association out of Switzerland. If I had to pick a country to put an association in, that's a pretty decent one. So yes, Zuckerberg, but with paper, the guy who's running it, their accountants, actually it's pretty incredible at the moment.
Tony, you jumped up and put your hand up and gathered your tribe to support this. Why are you guys in?
I think the new way of organization is the DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. That is, and I think all the centralized countries and companies and organizations will eventually head towards this path. And I think Zuckerberg, Facebook, even though it started as a very centralized database technology, they've leaked 70 million users' data, so they all want to solve this problem. Anytime when you're dealing with centralized database, you have to put your trust on a database admin. Maybe he's only making 50,000 a month, and he needs some extra money, and on a USB key, he can make a lot of money. So there's not a good way to solve the privacy issue unless you have you take advantage of the blockchain technology, but then you have to sacrifice the speed, the transaction speed. So I think Facebook, they recognize this sacrifice. So they're going to start with a super node, a permission chain, and then they said 5 years when they do have the technology to handle the transaction per second. They're going to eventually migrate it to a permissionless chain. And currently, I don't think there's a technology that can handle high-speed transaction that's up to their standard, up to their usage.
Okay, so I mean, what you're saying is it's going to be a while before this thing actually comes to fruition. Are we gonna go through the hype cycle at lightning speed? We're gonna run and then
I think just like anything, you need some hype to get people to start using it. Again, I think they're playing catch up, because if they don't do it, we're heading towards this new trend of blockchain, and they want to catch and be a number one in this market, and they're late.
Right. Okay. I am taking questions from the audience. I got lots. Tom, you got one in before. I'll give somebody else a chance if they want their hand up. I'm happy to take a question from Tom. Good-looking guy. All right. Anyone else? Tom, get it in there.
All right. So Facebook is primarily a retail platform, and now do you see this sort of being a sort of a SWIFT on steroids, where this is going to sort of replace SWIFT, which is an institutional platform, an institutional money exchange thing? Because I can see the value there. I can see where this could actually compete with the SWIFT. On a retail level, I can see it putting pressure on banks to lower their fees for transferring money across countries. Whereas if I want to transfer $100 from Citi in New York to Citi in Hong Kong, it'll cost me $20.
Yeah.
But do you see this as more of a retail or an institutional type product? And who's got to be more scared, the consumer banks or somebody like SWIFT?
Oh, I thought Ripple was supposed to take down SWIFT, but Hugh, what do you think?
Yeah, so I guess as a former FX guy, it's a topic dear to my heart, this one. I see it as disintermediation in global cross-border fashion. So cross-border payments, we talk about SWIFT, but it's a mess. It's an absolute mess how cross-border works. Domestic clearing streams are getting pretty good. Europe, Hong Kong, Australia, everywhere. China lagging fast bank to bank. Domestic clearing is pretty good. the central bank balances these days getting updated faster and faster, but the payment's done straight away, and the transaction and the settlement, that the etiquette settlement, clearing, all that's getting compressed. That's all getting better. Internationally, most people don't even have any clue how international works. So basically, every bank has got bank accounts with other banks all over the world. That's where they keep their foreign currency. These are called their nostros. And then during the day, if it's a really large payment, it just can't be done magically. They clean up afterwards. But if it's a small retail transaction, then they can use a Swift network and move it around relatively quickly. It's pretty painful, relatively quickly, and not very automatically. But that's just a notification that payments occurred, and then the beneficiary bank will just hand out some money, but they'll actually be short, and then there'll just be daily settlement processes and short-term money market desks and guys doing FX. It's an absolute mess, and the fees and the costs and just issues that goes all the way through making your seamless cross-border payments go. So there's two parts of that, right? There's all these systems, clearing and settlement systems, and just as important is the FX component. So blockchain's already proved that the going across the border bit and compressing and removing all those complicated systems, that's done. Blockchain, Bitcoin, Tether, it works. The next bit is the FX. Okay, well, how about managing that FX? And that's why this is going to be, might be the biggest challenge for Libra. That's why their weighted basket is the most interesting piece. So traders in FX these days, they say volatility's come down a lot, actually. It's so electronic, it's so finely priced, that maybe, especially for a retail size balance sheet, maybe just having a basket, that kind of just dampens the volatility. Right? You still got volatility, you still got FX exposure, but it's dampened, especially if it's weighted, like a properly weighted basket. So then you remove, for all intents and purposes, for smaller ticket sizes, you remove the issues of the FX. Then you make it instant, and you get rid of all those other systems that break and fail and cost a fortune to work, and you make it global. Right? And so that's kind of what I mean by Facebook's time to market.
And no fees.
And no fees.
Hallelujah.
So it's like pegging, essentially, like doing a transfer from the US dollar to the Hong Kong dollar.
Right.
It's a very
Close.
narrow band.
Yeah.
Now that's an interesting challenge too. It's like a consumer education point to that one. So, and I thought that's a very interesting part of the mock-ups. So if you look at the Libra examples, everywhere they mention the Libra, it'll have approximately another currency. So this, in my view, for like in Australia, when I was growing up in Australia, people have no idea what exchange rates are and what FX is. Like in Australia, people just think, well, the conversion rate of Australian dollars to US dollars, oh, that's just some rate that's agreed and fixed by the government. There's no idea that it floats around, it can be risky and all that kind of thing. Here in Asia, people are very savvy. Lots of jurisdictions, lots of currencies, people are gambling over fun. I'm not American, but I would assume it's probably a bit more similar to Australia, where people are not so FX savvy. And so maybe that hurdle that people have to understand a Libra is a bit different to a dollar. Maybe that's quite an educational hurdle that might be hard to get across. But some SEC comments have been kind of pointing along the lines that is probably a security anyway, and probably won't do it. So probably in the next 12 months you'll see Libra move away from the basket concept.
Oh, that's interesting. But I mean, he's talking about them putting on Swift, but what about the companies that were supposed to put down Swift in the first place? I mean, does that take Ripple and, let's say on the Forex front, the Stellar and Lumen types, does that take them out of the running? Are they looking at this? Should they be, they've actually been doing it. They actually have some experience. Presumably they know what they're doing. Whereas Libra is going to come someday. Does their experience give them some protection against Facebook's clout?
I think Facebook, if they're successful in launching this, I think Libra would disintermediate these cells like JP Morgan coin, JPM coin. I think that would face, because they're trying to do the same thing, but within the company.
Right.
So, Ripple, I think Stellar, all these will be affected. We'll see their influence not just diminished.
Yeah.
surely, I would hope there's no real ripple fans here, but in some way, is there actually? So in some ways, I would call Ripple a rent-seeking token. So the reason for XRP existing is to try and get it into usage and part of every transaction, so that the huge war chest of ripples that Ripple Labs has is worth lots of money.
Yeah.
Now, so it's just trying to inject itself, and it's not really needed. And again, that was an interesting part of the Libra model. Just like, no, I'm not trying to inject and force some token that we've pre-mined that therefore accrues value. They didn't do any of that. They said, no. People are going to stick their hands up, good citizens. They're going to spend about $200,000 US a year after their initial $10 million investment. That's going to be their cost to run it, and the transaction is going to be free, and there's no rent-seeking token. That's also part of the complexity, though, why people say it's not pure crypto, because it's not public. It's private. It's controlled consensus nodes.
Gotcha. Okay, last chance for questions from the audience. I've got tons. Yeah, I've got one right over here. Thank you.
Yeah, I just have a question on general vision for cryptocurrencies. I guess you've talked about the transaction aspect of money, but there are other things like borrowing and lending and interest rates associated with it. Do you see cryptos going into that space? And then when we talk about interest rates, you need some sort of a regulator to manage that. That's what you have today. So do that. Does that come up in the long run?
Yeah, 100%. Yes. And best, it all comes down to data again, in my view as well. So strategy for starting to own these products. First of all, give payments away for free. Then have an enormously rich set of data about all the spending habits of everyone on the network. You're going to have the best credit risk models in the world, and you're already in everyone's face, and you know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and you know when their payroll comes in and they're about to go and buy something, and then you can just suggest buy it now, I'll give this piece of credit. It's the perfect place, like once you own the consumer, perfect place to start just chucking in those products. Lending, wealth management, you name it.
I think
Then you
I
make
totally
transaction
agree.
frictionless. Yeah.
I think the future, we're in the crypto, digital asset management, crypto asset exchange. I think our target is to intermediate all these traditional banks, right? All these traditional foreign exchange centers and even traditional insurance companies. All these will be, in the future, will be replaced with blockchain, smart contract, and blockchain-driven digital asset management, custody solutions, even lending. So the future is really how you can reach the users. You can have direct interaction, as you can build an app, a blockchain via directly interact with your users. You can offer lots of services. I think the future is totally going to be so different. I think the traditional banks will gradually disappear, just like the drivers on a taxi, just when driverless car come.
Okay, sounds good. Last question. Yes.
Just a follow-up on that. Do you think the borrowing and lending is going to be something like similar to Coinbase wallet, which is driven by the supply and demand of that cryptocurrency or stablecoin?
I think Coinbase is already doing a lot of that. Many exchanges are doing it. I think in the future, lending, credit score, interest rate, all that will be on blockchain and smart contracts.
Anything you want to add to that?
No.
You don't have to. We've got plenty of.
So, right tool is the right tool, really, and not all markets are going to be on some decentralized thing in the sky that takes at least seconds to clear. Right tool is the right tool. Real money, it needs to be fast, electronic, it's going to be on nanoseconds, centralized large ticket venues, just the same as other asset classes. And sometimes some forms of intermediation are very important. Like tenor, matching different time horizons, size of the ticket. It's not clear to me that I just don't understand. I haven't got my head around how everything can just go retail end to end, completely intermediated, and remove the need for anyone kind of facilitating that matching when it's not perfect. So I see traditional markets still existing. I see very, very fast markets still existing. So, but I certainly think a lot of it.
Yeah.
But,
Okay,
the,
well,
but
if
the
Facebook-
magic's going to be premiumized, and that's where you're going to be able to make your true margins, because all of that is going to be premiumized because it's not going to be a commodity that just happens in nanoseconds. That's where the real money's going to be.
All right, good. Well, then now you guys are glad you showed up, because now you know where the real money's going to be. And we got a lot of really deep insights tonight. We can take this a lot further, but we're going to have to wrap it up here. This is fascinating. I think we might need to have to look at doing a part 2 to get into the next level of discussion. We had a really, really great one here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Big thank you to Tony.